Snakes and Ladders is a strange game. That's why I've locked myself to this board until I get to the top and defeat Jad for a fire cape. Hey everyone, Deoptimize here. Welcome back to RollerScape, where this Snakes and Ladders board chooses what I do next. Last time on our adventure, we messed up and ruined our account, apologizing like the most shameless of creators, and rolling our way into Chaos Runes, which will let us safe spot anything in the game, giving us easy access to just about anything on this board. In fact, I'd say that we won't encounter a single roadblock at all in the foreseeable future. After getting our red topaz machete, our next immediate goal was traversing up the ladder and grabbing the magic level to use Chaos Runes. I'd only need level 15 for Windbolt, but I decided to get all the way up to 35 so that I could use Firebolt. To train up, I used the Arceus library, where you run around and collect books for a couple professors who apparently can't grasp the Dewey Decimal System. It's also nice that it's free, and it feels so good to use up a whole inventory of books at once, like seriously. I'd start a new account just to do this part all over again. Anyways, there's 35 magic, and look, I can do something outside of melee range. Again, now that we're able to safe spot things and take advantage of elemental weaknesses, I'm sure that there's going to be basically no challenge throughout this entire board. But before I go to the board for the roll, I went and got my state-mandated agility levels, remember the formula, and collected someone's expensive wine for an hour and sold it to a local winery so that I'd have enough spending money for a crap ton of Chaos Runes. Also, before we start this roll, make sure you hit like and subscribe to give us both good luck here. Otherwise, I'm gonna have sponsored spaces on the board or something. Back at the board again, we've moved a decent chunk of spaces. So we've moved 5 spaces along the board, and so that'll bring us 5 new options, but just to quickly review what we could already roll. This is the Shazian Armor 5. I'm gonna say that's D tier because that's just a long detour for basically, well, some ranged gear, which, Darts S tier, fantastic, good ranged option. 24 Snelms, C tier, kind of boring, not really getting much. These are, I believe, Willow, short bow and longbow. I'll double check on that and put it on the screen here, which one it is. It doesn't really matter, but that's a type of short bow. We'll need to figure out how to get ranged XP, which there's a few quests we could complete to get that started. This is the studded leather armor. Boring, but you know, getting a whole range setup would be good because I've got a pretty newbie mage setup. B tier. The Rysian robes. I do have the crafting level to make these if I just thieve the fabrics, so it might just be a bit of thieving training. This, I would say, is probably A tier because then it goes with our current magic setup and is a pretty decent upgrade. This is the Skull Scepter, which, while it can't autocast standard spells, it can autocast Crumble Undead and the Arceus spellbook. That would actually be pretty good because then I could use Undead Grasp instead of manually casting every single spell. And then lastly, we've got Knives here, which will also take us up to Adamant Equipment, which I would just say is S tier just for that alone, because Adamant Equipment, very solid melee options all around the board. It's a big jump up from Steel as well. Then we'll get Knives, and Addy Knives will be included in that for ranged, which will be huge. I feel like I could do a fight Gaves with Addy Knives. Worst case scenario, it would just be a whole lot of mining and a whole lot of smithing. So yeah, S tier for that, I'm gonna say. I think that's actually all of these, so let's get started with the official roll here. Is that die caught? No. Every single table would say that's a 5, which 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 takes us to studded leather armor. I should be back here shortly because this should be purchasable, or if not, I can craft it quickly. Okay, as it turns out, I actually need 20 ranged in order to equip studded leather, so that shouldn't be too bad, right? I can figure out some quests or something. So, 20 ranged and 20 defense. I feel like there's something I should spell out here about ranged training. Take a look at my inventory here. I haven't rolled a single ranged weapon so far, which is the primary way to get ranged XP. You know, shoot monster, number go up, all that. So I'm gonna have to find another way. One thing I could do is I could sail the open seas, put a cannon on my boat, and slay creatures on the ocean. That'll give us a decent amount of ranged XP. The problem is, that'll take a long time for me to even get the sailing level to use a bronze cannon, and I'm not even sure I could kill any enemies with level 1 ranged, since cannon damage scales by your range level. There is another way to use a cannon, the Dwarf Multi-Cannon. Last time around I did the Dwarf Cannon quest, which will let me get one of these bad boys from the Dwarves of Ice Mountain, if I cough up a measly 750,000 GP, that is. While that's not unobtainable, I'd prefer to avoid hopping worlds for Eclipse Red Wines for 5 hours straight, as that's really my only viable moneymaker. Lastly, this leaves us with questing. There is one quest that can take me from 1 to 27 ranged right off the bat, and that is Shadow of the Storm. As long as I can kill the boss at the end, Agrith Nar, the rest of the quest is just a bit of walking around. The problem is, Agrith Nar can't be safe spotted by normal means, since he can use a magic attack that hits us from afar. So, unfortunately, we'll have to put the Chaos Runes away for that fight in particular. I've still got a plan though, which will involve using my melee stats, which are easily trained by doing about 30 different quests. So here's Waterfall Quest, The Fight Arena, Trino Village, Merlin's Crystal, Holy Grail, Witcher's House, and the fishing contest, because I was sick and tired of going through the White Wolf Mountain and I wanted to pass under it. And on top of that, I went and did Demon Slayer and the Golem as their prerequisites for Shadow of the Storm. And so, there I was, head to head against Agrith Nar, the demon banished by Guthix himself, the summoner of Delrith, and the controller of weather? Yeah, all he really does is make a sandstorm happen outside, hence him being, you know, the Shadow of the Storm. All I had to do was sit there and flinch him for 25 minutes using the Demon Bane equivalent of a butter knife and praying I get lucky with a couple water bolts, but eventually I prevailed and got my ranged XP reward. With that, I was able to buy and equip some studded leather, leading us to our next roll. Okay, we're back at the board here, because we got our studded leather. So looking ahead, we've got 5 new spaces we can roll. I'll just quickly go through these one by one. First one, Zerician robes. I believe that's how it's pronounced. Zerican robes, one of the two. It's an easy upgrade to our mage setup. Takes us from, I think, plus 18 to plus 24 mage bonus. I would say this is A tier, just because it's super easy to get and it's a good upgrade. Skull Scepter Eye. Also pretty easy to get with some safe spots. You need to get 4 different skull pieces in the Stronghold of Security. It lets us auto-cast Arceus spells and Crumble Undead, which honestly is a lot better than clicking Water Bolt, then enemy, then Water Bolt, then enemy. I just click once and wait, right? It also moves us down to the Mithril Metal set, which is an upgrade. I would say overall this is like A tier. That's fantastic on both sides of things. Knives, great ranged option, easy to smith lots of steel knives, but it is very expensive for anything better than that. But I would still say like A tier, just because it gets us on ranged, and it rolls us right up to the adamant metal set. A tier there. Weapon poison, this actually isn't too difficult to get. It's a 1 in 50 drop from Anku's, but ultimately really not useful for anything, so C tier. Then we've got the Dorgishan crossbow. Fantastic. This is like, oh my goodness, this is such a great upgrade. It's a good ranged weapon, super cheap to upkeep. Like, the bone bolts are like 3 GP each. Honestly, I could send a fire cape with just that and some good D-hide, and we'd be good to go. That also takes us straight up to Mystic Robes, which are another great mage upgrade, but they are kind of expensive, so it would take me a while to get the money for that, but that would also be great. Next up is the Amulet of Strength, which, while easy to get, not super easy to get, I would have to get a decently high crafting level for this. It's great for melee, but like literally nothing else. It is like the best in slot melee necklace on this board, but it does also catapult us up right to the Brine Saber. That is going to be an awful grind. I need to get 47 Slayer, so C tier, honestly, because while having like plus 3 max hits on melee is good, it's not particularly useful for a fire cape or getting most of these items, so I'm going to say C tier on that. Adamant set, it's a good upgrade for melee across the board, because right now we are quite limited by the stats of our steel armor, and then I could do something like Dragon Slayer. I would still need some kind of anti-fire protection for that. Yeah, it's decently easy to get as well. Adamant isn't too expensive, so B tier on that one. Then lastly, we've got the Maple Short and Longbow. I would need to find 2400 ranged XP somewhere in order to get the 30 range that's required for these. This is doable if I do Death to the Dorgishan and Client of Karen and put those lamps on a ranged. That also catapults us right up to Mystic Battle Staves. See the little N there for Mystic? Yeah, Mystic Battle Staves would be like great for a mage weapon, because I don't really have a mage weapon other than holding a dagger for a +1 bonus. So yeah, that would be A tier purely based on the ladder. So yeah, that's all I can think of. A couple of stats related to this roll. 50% chance we get a ladder. on this. 1, 2, 3, 4 ladders. There is also a 37.5% chance we get a ranged weapon on this roll, so this is pretty pivotal for what we do next. With that being said, I'm gonna go for the roll here. That is a 2. Okay, so we're doing the Skull Scepter Imbued, and then that'll take us right down to Mithril Armor, and then we get to do another lap of this part again. Okay, I mean, I won't say I'll be back at the board soon, because this will take a decent amount of time to say spot all the enemies for this, but given we have Chaos Runes and our spells, we should be good to go. But yeah, I mean, that's nice. Overall, not too bad. But that's all the time we have for today, so I'll see you all in the next one.